Hey, what's up YouTube family? It is finally that time of the year again. We have come to the end of 2015, which is crazy to think about. It feels like just yesterday I was releasing my favorite movies of 2014, and now we are 1 year ahead. It is time for my top 10 list of movies that came out in 2015. Now I want to lay some ground rules first. I live in a very rural part of the United States. I live in small town Indiana. We don't get a wide variety of movies here. We get basically what everybody else is getting, minus like those huge venues like in LA or a New York City or something like that. So I have not seen every movie that's come out in 2015 just because I have not been able to get my hands on that many movies. Also, a lot of the movies that are not in wide release yet, so like The Hateful Eight or The Revenant, to just name a couple, I have not been able to see yet because they have not come out in theaters close to me. So those movies might have been able to jump onto this list, but right now I am not able to see them. So what you guys are getting is my own personal list, which is another ground rule. This is my own personal list. These are my favorite movies. They might not be the best films of the year. They might not be your favorite movies of the year, but for me, on pure entertainment value, on pure rewatchability, these are the movies I enjoyed the most in 2015. So getting into this list, I want to start with 3 honorable mentions, which I really did love. I love these movies, but they didn't quite make it on my top 10. They were so close. My top 10, my 10th favorite movie, and a couple of these honorable mentions were so close, but these 3 movies were very close, but not quite on there. So these 3 movies are Straight Outta Compton, which I had so much fun with. The soundtrack in Straight Outta Compton was amazing. This music, along with great acting, the portrayals of these characters, so good. So I love Straight Outta Compton. American Sniper, which was released in 2014, but not in wide release until 2015. I didn't see it until 2015, so it made it onto this list. I thought it was fantastic. Another honorable mention, which pained me to not put in my top 10, Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, I loved this movie. I thought it was really good. Not as good as the first, and I think the marketing of Avengers Age of Ultron probably is what kept it off that list, because I already had such a good idea of what was going to happen. All the plot points throughout this movie, I thought I already kind of got in the trailers. I thought they showed too much. If I would have been a little bit more fresh going into the theater, I think it might have been able to jump on there, but just because I already had such high expectations for this movie, it failed to deliver, but I did have a lot of fun with this movie. But now getting into my top 10 of 2015. Coming in at number 10 is Sicario. Now, Emily Blunt and Benicio del Toro were fantastic in Sicario. The story was so gripping, it sucked you in immediately. And then the acting was so good as well. And like I said before, the tension between the characters of Emily Blunt and Benicio del Toro, you could just cut that tension with a knife. And a lot of times the tension was almost more gripping than the actual story because of what was going on with the story. This movie kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time, and it was a lot better than what I expected going into the theater. So because it delivered on more than what I expected, I loved this movie. So for me, Sicario comes in at number 10. Number 9, Pixar's Inside Out comes in here at number 9. Now, Inside Out was a lot of people's favorite animated movie of the year. For me, I loved Inside Out. It just didn't quite deliver like some of the other Pixar movies, like a Toy Story or an Up or a Finding Nemo or something like that. But Inside Out was awesome. I loved the way that it made you think. And it was, honestly, the way I like to look at Inside Out is that it was a movie made for adults that appealed to kids, because so many underlying factors throughout this movie that dealt with depression and all your different emotions. I thought this movie just delivered on so many different levels, and I absolutely loved it. And of course, like a Pixar movie does, it gets you emotionally invested, and I absolutely love that. So Pixar's Inside Out comes in at number 9 for me. Coming in at number 8 was one of the biggest surprises for this year, Ant-Man. Now, Ant-Man was a character, when I first heard about it, I was not sure. I was like, come on guys, you're really pushing it now. But Ant-Man was so much fun. It was by far the funniest Marvel movie that they've released. And I just really loved how they made it fit into the universe. And the part that I loved the absolute most about Ant-Man was that it was a small scale movie. Ant-Man didn't have to have stakes so big that the world was going to end if he didn't fulfill what he was set out to do. Honestly, I am starting to not get burnt out, but it's nice to see a smaller scale Marvel movie be able to deliver on the level of some of the other Marvel movies. So yes, I did like Ant-Man better than Avengers Age of Ultron this year, but it's because Ant-Man did something a little bit different and it stands on its own. It really does. It was a really good heist film and I had so much fun with it. Coming in at number 7 was the Peanuts movie. Now going into the Peanuts movie, I was honestly not expecting much. The Peanuts movie was just, again, it looked like another Charlie Brown movie, and so many remakes nowadays that take properties from years ago, they just can't deliver like the Peanuts movie did. Now the Peanuts movie is one that I feel like in 20, 30 years from now, people will be able to show this to their kids, people will be able to play this on TV, and it will still hold up. The animation style feels like the old vintage animation style, just with a new updated spin on it, and man, how can you not love Charlie Brown? We've all felt like Charlie Brown at times, and we've just felt so like we're not good enough at times. But you know what? In the end, it's not necessarily about being good enough. It's about being your best and trying and picking yourself back up again, and that's what I loved. I love the message behind the Peanuts movie, and I grew up with the Peanuts, and I had fun with this movie. So, moving into number 6 now is one that hurts for me not to put in my top 5 because I've watched this movie a handful of times since I bought it on Blu-ray, and it is one of the most fun and surprising movies of this entire year, maybe that I've ever seen. Going into this movie, I expected it to be very stereotypical teenage spy movies, and it's Kingsman. Kingsman was amazing. Kingsman is, until a few movies came out later in the year, Kingsman was my top 2 or 3 favorite movie of the year. I had so much fun with this movie. I mean, this was probably the best spy movie to me I have seen since one of the Bourne movies. To me, I'm not a huge James Bond fan, and this movie was the best James Bond movie that I saw this year. I saw Spectre, I saw the new Mission Impossible, and I saw Kingsman, and this movie, in my opinion, was the best one. It delivered, it had so much fun, and it just went balls to the wall from start to finish, and again, the word that keeps coming back to mind is fun. I had so much fun with this movie. Coming in at number 5, Creed. This was my favorite Rocky movie, and this is the kind of movie I love. I love those underdog stories, and Creed is an underdog story. I thought Michael B. Jordan was fantastic in this movie, and I think Michael B. Jordan is going to be around for a very long time, and we are going to be able to look back at performances like him in Fruitvale Station, or in this movie like Creed, and say this is where he started, and really kind of burst him onto the scene, because I thought he was phenomenal in this movie. And honestly, I think Sylvester Stallone might have given the best dramatic acting performance in his entire career in this movie. I thought Sylvester Stallone was amazing as Rocky in this movie. I thought Michael B. Jordan was incredible as Creed in this movie, and you know what? This movie delivered. It absolutely delivered. It had a lot of hype behind it, but it delivered, and I loved it. I had so much fun with Creed, but yes, Creed is number 5. Number 4, Matt Damon as the Martian is number 4. This movie, I thought it was going to be a lot like Interstellar. Me, I had a lot of hype behind Interstellar. I was very excited for it. It was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. The Martian was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I love those voyage kind of space odyssey type movies, and you know what? Interstellar was pretty disappointing. I had so much hype behind it, and it was disappointing. The Martian, on the other hand, I had so much hype behind it, and it exceeded my expectations. 100% exceeded my expectations. I loved how they could take a character like Matt Damon was playing in this movie, and not only was he in these awful predicaments, but he had so much humor. He always looked at the good. And again, for me, a lot of times it's the message behind the movie that really kind of makes me involved. And the message behind this movie was that you should never give up. There's always a bright side to any situation, and Matt Damon's character throughout this movie, I thought portrayed that perfectly. I thought it was visually stunning. I thought it was directed perfectly. All the performances in this movie were spot on. Everybody back on Earth, Matt Damon on Mars, everybody's performance was amazing. So The Martian for me is number 4. Now we get in to my top 3 movies of 2015. Coming in at number 3, it hurts that this is all the way down at number 3, but Mad Max Fury Road. Mad Max Fury Road is, in my opinion, the second best action movie I have ever seen. Terminator 2 sets that standard as the best action movie ever created, and Mad Max Fury Road, it pushed those limits. From start to finish, it took no time getting from 0 to 100 real quick. This movie went balls to the wall, and it did not slow down until the end of the movie. Now, I know some people do have problems because the performances in the movie might have been a little stale. They might have had some problems because the dialogue might not have been perfect. But for me, when I'm going to the movies, I want to have fun. I want to watch something on the screen, especially if it's a Mad Max movie. I want it to be fun. I want it to be exciting. I want it to keep me on the edge of my seat from start to finish. And Mad Max Fury Road, you cannot deny Mad Max Fury Road kept you on the edge of your seat with excitement levels over 9,000. So, Mad Max Fury Road is number 3. Now, in my top 2, I had a lot of trouble wrestling with these top 2 movies in my list. Now, I know once I tell you guys my top 2, you might be able to guess my number 1. But again, this is my list. This is what I enjoy. This is based off rewatchability. This is about my interests. And the movie that I liked second most, Star Wars The Force Awakens. No movie in my lifetime has ever had the amount of hype that Star Wars The Force Awakens has had. Nobody has ever had a movie with higher expectations than Star Wars The Force Awakens. And this movie not only delivered to that hype, but it exceeded expectations. J.J. Abrams had an impossible feat to reintroduce Star Wars to a brand new audience, and then to also introduce Star Wars to an audience that had a sour taste in their mouth from the prequels. So J.J. Abrams had almost an impossible task of delivering a fantastic movie, and he did just that. And it wasn't just him that delivered on this promise of making Star Wars relevant again, but it was Daisy Ridley, it was Oscar Isaac, it was John Boyega. All of these characters, all of these actors, every performance in this movie was incredible. You had Adam Driver as Kylo Ren, who was intriguing, who was a very intrinsically motivated villain that you could relate with. And then you had your heroes, both new and old. You had Han and Leia and Chewie back. You had your new characters, Rey and Finn and Poe. And BB-8 stole the show for me. BB-8 was amazing. So for me, Star Wars The Force Awakens was my second favorite movie of the year. It came out 2.5 weeks ago, and I've already seen it 4 times in theaters. For me, I can watch this movie no matter how many amount of times and still have fun with it. And for me, that's what makes a movie good. That's what makes me enjoy a movie, is if I can go back and watch it again, and watch it again, because it's just that good. So Force Awakens is my second favorite movie of the year. So for me, my number 1 favorite movie of the year, now I'm going to say my favorite movie of the year, not necessarily the best film, but the one I enjoyed the most, Jurassic World. Now you guys have probably been following my channel for a while. You know that I love Jurassic Park, my favorite movie of all time, and I had waited 14 years for a new Jurassic Park, and I've waited an entire lifetime for another good Jurassic Park, because 2 was alright, 3 was awful, but Jurassic World was finally the sequel that I wanted. We saw the park up and running, we saw people walking through the doors, we saw dinosaurs in their habitat being looked at like theme park monsters, and it was so good to see. And then we saw the new Indominus Rex being introduced. We saw characters like Chris Pratt's Owen. We saw Claire, who was played by Bryce Dallas Howard. We saw all of these new characters being introduced that had their own interesting backgrounds, and we saw them come together again and have to fend off dinosaurs. And what's more fun than dinosaurs? You don't need to have a super well thought out script to make a good dinosaur movie. You have to have good CGI, which never once throughout this movie did I ever look at a dinosaur and say, that looks fake. Not once. You don't have to have all of that important super good dialogue. This isn't a Citizen Kane, this is a Jurassic Park action movie. And you know what? Looking at it as a Jurassic Park action movie, that's exactly what we got. We got dinosaurs fighting with dinosaurs. We got dinosaurs eating people. We got people trying to make dinosaurs into weapons. Of course, there were problems that I had with the movie, but when it comes to pure rewatchability factor, I have seen this movie so many times. And you know what? I still have fun with it every single time because Jurassic Park holds a special place in my heart, and Jurassic World delivered as a good sequel to Jurassic Park. So sure, you might have some flack, you might throw some hate my way for making Jurassic World my favorite movie of 2015, but for me, it's my favorite movie of 2015. So tell me down below, what's your guys' favorite movies of 2015? What are some that you didn't enjoy? What are some of your least favorite movies of 2015? But let's start a discussion down below. What's your favorite movie of 2015? Mine's Jurassic World. What did you guys think of my list? Thanks so much for watching, guys. Thanks so much for the support throughout 2015. I can't say it enough. Without you guys, without your guys' support, none of this would be possible. None of this would be happening. So again, thank you guys so much for the love. Thank you guys so much for the support. It means the world to me. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, go hit that red subscribe button. Thanks again so much for watching, guys. I will talk to you in the next one in 2016. Peace.